yesterday. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, we are. Yeah, clear. Yeah, not in a position to name those, but yeah, we'll look to add a couple of fast bowlers to the squad and potentially have a squad of 15 for Adelaide, just to cover all bases. It's not as simple as just bringing in one quick, because depending on which quick potentially misses out, then we want a balanced attack. So we'll probably bring in 2 options to cover. We'll look to announce that potentially before we leave Perth tomorrow, with the Shield games ending up today. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a consideration that pink ball is significantly different to red ball, so that'll be a factor in the selection, no doubt. Yeah, it does factor in. We'll see how they pull up tomorrow. Short turnaround, 3 days or 3.5, because it's a day-night game. So yeah, we feel as though we'll assess those bodies, but we've got to respect the short turnaround. At the moment, as it sits, they've pulled up well, both Josh and Mitch. Paddy's obviously the major concern, and we erred on side of caution out there. We had him out there available. Potentially if we were pushed into a bit of a corner and the game wasn't going our way, but fortunately we didn't have to use him, so therefore that recovery in theory started potentially 2 days ago, so we feel as though he's 50-50 for the next test match as it sits at the moment. Yeah, it was forced last year, so obviously the side strain to Josh Hazlewood in the first test match, and then obviously COVID to Paddy allowed us to make those changes without calling it rotation or resting or whatever the words are that are used around it. But yeah, we play the test match, see how the fast bowlers pull up, and then go from there. So it's like any other player. If they don't pull up well and there's a short turnaround, then we've got some really good depth that's forming. Scott Boland's sitting on the bench at the moment with a test average, I think, under 10 or something ridiculous like that. So we feel as though we've got options to cover, and it's 5 test match summer, and then clearly there's more test matches at the end of our summer as well in terms of India. But first and foremost, short turnaround, see how they pull up tomorrow, get to Adelaide, and then we'll formulate the 11 from there.
Andrew, what do you need to see from Patman in Adelaide?
Firstly, get out of the hands of the physio. So in terms of first step will be that he's rid of all the the symptoms around the quad, the awareness part there, and then once he's handed over to us, then we can assess him from a skills perspective. But until he's handed over from the medical team, then he's not on the table for selection. We feel as though that'll happen pretty quickly.
Can you leave that until say eve of the game? I know traditionally guys don't really do much the day before.
Yeah, they do 0 the day before generally, so we can leave that to the day of the game, in all honesty. So we can assess him, give him potentially a light run the day before, and then see how he pulls up on the day of the game. So we can leave it right up to the toss if we want. It's our captain. We're going to give him every chance to get out there, and we saw that the way even he marshalled the troops out there was impressive, albeit he wasn't bowling himself. So
how different the conversation is because with the captain, it's not Josh or Mitch to you, something like that?
I think it's the same conversation in terms of you're fit and available to perform. So the conversation is that, and then the extra layer is he is our captain. We do have Cameron Green in the side so that he can pick up some overs as well. Nathan Lyon, brilliant off spinner. He gives us great coverage, and even we got put to a decision in this test match. But knowing that we had Nathan Lyon and Cameron Green in the attack, then it probably didn't expose us as much as what it would have if we had 3 quicks and 1 spinner. So we got great coverage. But first and foremost, is he fit? Is he available? Then are we risking potentially South Africa first test and deeper into the summer? So as I said though, the medical team will assess him once he's out of their hands. Then he's over to us to make those decisions.
Is it always hard to plan to rest and rotate bowlers in summer, or does I guess Patman sort of work a little bit like today? Is that something like or maybe more aware of the fact that Michael's necessary?
Short turnarounds, I think is the biggest consideration. Bowling last and a short turnaround puts stress and strain on your bowling stocks. So you don't go in and predetermine what you're going to do over the summer. We don't sit here and go, this player's going to play that test match. It's not as finite as that. It's play the test match. We know we've got other guys that are there, ready and available. See how our guys pull up and then move from there. So we've got a short turnaround. We've got an injured captain at the moment. So, as I said, we feel like 2 players coming in to give us coverage, depending on which way we want to balance the attack, and considerations given to the fact that it's pink ball.
And what about leading panel field? There was some question, especially one question into 7 down, that why you were still in the field with Soren's job, shall we say, for all the past input. Was there a thought there, okay, this is getting off and you have to return him later, what do you do to get him off a bit earlier?
There was a consideration given to that. Was he at risk out there doing what he was doing? No. So he was able to manage the tempo in which he ran. So we felt as though him being out there was helping us, that we were in control of the game as well. So that allowed us to make those decisions. And I thought that he captained beautifully when he was out there.
Cameron's workload, he hasn't had a lot of bowling lead up. Comfortable with how he got through this week and how he's taken given your one down.
Yeah, 23 overs is a good outcome in terms of overall workload for Cam Green. Thought he bowled well at times. His load's going to be dependent on how the front 3 quicks go in the game, and obviously Nathan Lyon, so he's an added bonus. But I think you can see him bowling in and around that sort of 20 to 30 over mark for most of the summer, just purely on the fact that we don't need any more from him. Could he do more? Potentially. But we're not stretched at the moment in that space because of the quality of the 4 bowlers in front of him at the moment.
Once Pat's out of the hands of the game, making calls through, if it gets to that point, do you trust Pat, given his injury history, that he knows his body very well, that he should almost have a say on it, or is it a general conversation?
You work with your player every time, so once it's out of the hands of the medical team, you assess the risk and the summer ahead. He knows his body well. There'll be a lot of trust put into him, and we're talking about a real minor quad strain, so we're not talking about a significant one, hence why he was out there. If it was more significant, then he wouldn't have taken the field again. So it was really minor. Was there an option of him bowling today? Yes, there was. We felt like the risk of him further injuring that then would have put him in doubt for the second test match, and that's why we erred on the side of caution in this case, and we've given him an extra few days to recover going into that test match, so we're hopeful he's available for Adelaide. I think Pakistan was probably the time when we were exposed to that. 2 quicks, Cam and a couple of spinners, so that's already happened. As I said, we're lucky and fortunate enough that the quality in front of him doesn't mean that he has to bowl excessive amounts of overs. He bats in the top 6, so he's holding his own as a batter. So I could say that he's pretty much unrestricted at the moment. Do we still keep an eye on it? Yeah, we do. We keep an eye on all our fast bowlers. We keep an eye on what's coming up and overall workloads. So it's a consideration for all of them. And it's not to say that the others are on restrictions. So I think we're past those days. But as I said, the quality of bowlers in front of him means that he'll probably just hang around that amount of overs. There might be some days that he does get stretched. There might be some days that he bowls less, but I wouldn't read too much into that. I'll just read that into the fact that we've got the front 4 bowlers have all taken over 200 plus wickets and their quality, and don't allow him the space to bowl as much as potentially people think he should. His overall load in 12 months of cricket, is it a concern? Yeah, I think it's a concern for every player. Players make decisions around what they do, factoring in what's coming up. So he's an all-3 format player now, so I'm sure that he'll be considering where he plays and what leagues he chooses to play in over the next 10 years of his career, so where things fit and at what time. So he's got a lot of cricket before the IPL, and I'm sure that his decision won't be made right now. It'll be made later on down the track, leading into the IPL, because you never know what your body's going to feel like in 3 months' time on the back of 9 Test matches, plus some white ball cricket at the back end of that Indian series. So yeah, I think he'll assess where he's at and make the decision sort of closer. Is he in the auction? Yep, that's great. We encourage all our players, if it fits, to go to the IPL, and it's so far away from it at the moment that why wouldn't you put your hat in the ring?
Has he had a proper conversation about that? Like, has it been a long conversation running up to death versus the challenges of the workload?
Yeah, we've spoken about it. We've spoken about it several times, and as I said, it's a hypothetical to see how he's feeling, come the end of March, going into the IPL. So, on the back of last season, we managed to get him through Pakistan in good health. But there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and when the IPL starts. So it's an ongoing conversation. It's a weekly conversation around which games, what's coming up, what he looks like for next Test match. We'll speak to him tomorrow, see how he's pulled up, make a decision on the next Test match. So there's a short-term focus, and then clearly there's a long-term focus. Yeah.
And just in terms of looking forward to that next 12 months, would you have taken more belief and confidence, or think any happy with what the season that was used? Like, it did kind of look like, those changes he's made actually have presented to the season result. Would you be confident on the side about showing his testimony to him?
I don't think anyone can be more excited than himself. But no, we are excited. He works hard on his game, and I think everyone that's seen him in the back room working on his game in the nets with Diva, the amount of hours he puts in, the amount of hours that is invested to make that change again and to make that change repeatable for what he's about to embark on is incredibly impressive. So to him and Diva to get to that stage, and then for him to go out and execute, I think the first couple of balls his pre-movement crept in, but then once he settled in his innings, it was pure. Pre-movement was repeatable. It's opened up more scoring options. It's opened up the short ball option of scoring in front and behind. Potentially when he was a little bit more open, he was only able to hit the ball behind, so therefore teams were able to set fields with the predictable manner in which the ball was going. It's been really impressive. So we're excited for him. He's excited, and him and Man have got off to a flying start for the summer. So hopefully they can push each other, to new limits. And obviously David Warner, he'll want to get involved in that conversation with a few others in that top six. So it's really good when you've got players performing at that level, investing the time into their game and getting returns like they are. I think we're used to it now. You go from short turnaround from white ball into red ball, and then you go from a red ball test match into a pink ball test match. So it's really the norm. So we'll get there for the main session, and we'll go from there. So we can't really get pink balls out leading into a red ball, or you can't get red balls out leading into a white ball. So you feel as though you're a fraction behind, but once you have that main session, everything sort of settles down again. Everyone will get used to the tempo of that. The pink ball will swing differently under night. We've under the lights, we've got our first session 6 till 9, so we'll expose our players to that to get an understanding of it. And it's probably catching's the big point of difference in the pink ball, just in that sort of transition period. In the field, you see a lot of balls that go down. So fielding will probably be a heavy investment under lights in that transition period when we get to Adelaide.
I asked Pat about this before, but do you think that the team are getting better at that, the fourth innings scenario? And I suppose, when you, in a conventional way, trying to build up a good test match performance where you batted first and then to finish the game off, because I suppose if you don't do that after 4 days of hard work, you can draw.
Yeah, I think the wickets, we sort of use the term that they're trending backwards. So they're actually getting better to bat on deeper in games. We've seen the Gabba, day 4 and 5 is really good to bat at the Gabba, the MCG, potentially the same. We saw here, this one didn't deteriorate as much as we thought. We thought it was going to crack. It stayed really good for batting. So you're always, if the wicket doesn't deteriorate, then you're going to be up against it. It's going to be hard work in the last innings. You're hoping that you put enough pressure on with the bat. You've got enough runs to be able to, be a little bit more creative at certain times. And we saw our team bounce in and out of different plans at certain times. And I think the amount of runs that you put on the board allows Nathan Lyon to go to work and lock in from one end. And we've seen how good he is over time. And you give him a total like that, and you give him enough time, he's able to do his work like he did today. But the wickets are flat at back end of games, and we've seen that all around the world. So you think you're in a strong position, wicket flattens out, and it's a lot of hard work, and full credit to our bowling unit to be able to front up and continue to do that. And every time you don't do it, I think the heat comes on in terms of the criticism, but sometimes you are going to fall short, sometimes you're going to run out of time, sometimes the surface is going to beat you as a team. I don't think there's any failing in that. I think you set up a game, you get into a strong position. We've seen in Rawalpindi it's pretty flat there as well. How are you going to take 10 wickets in the last innings of a game there? So it's facing a lot of teams all around the world, the flat wickets at the back end. I think the ground staff have got excellent at growing grass and keeping wickets together.
Just on that, with the play that you're saying that the wickets are being spared, does that mean the traditional win-the-toss bat, win-the-toss think about it and still bat is still the way to go, you think, or is that potentially something you could look at again?
I think you turn up to the ground, you work out with the captain what the wicket looks like, and you take an educated guess as to what the next 5 days is going to look like, and ultimately the captain will make that decision. So you're trying to get all the information, you're trying to work through that, and maybe the fact that we're playing less and less cricket on the main venues as well means there's less deterioration potentially. So there's probably a bigger conversation around how much use is on the main venues around Australia to create some imperfections, and that's what we're talking about here. When you get some imperfections, the wicket can allow the game to accelerate at the back end. That was still pretty good out there. Would have deteriorated in the last session where the ball's going to go up and down. We'll never know, but it stayed pretty true throughout.